I'm Erin J. Doyle. Welcome to my channel and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I believe this video will be going up on Christmas morning or possibly Christmas Eve depending on your time zone. So I figured an entirely positive video was in order. However, after, I don't know, half an hour of failed attempts to speak coherently, I have put aside the soda I started drinking with and I have busted out this and a mince pie. Which I'm going to put there. This, however, is what we care about. This is a bottle of beer which my brother brewed for me and sent from Australia. I have just realised that it has a rubber stopper. Rubber makes me die. So I'm gonna get a tissue. Gonna wipe rubber off the mouth of the bottle before we get going. Right, so here we go. I'm just gonna like just so we don't get like blistering in our mouth or anything like that. Okay. Cheers. Merry Christmas. Oh, that's interesting. That is so interesting. It's like nothing like the citrus beer that I have in the fridge from like the shop. It's like the initial mouthful, it's like, oh yeah, I'm drinking a beer, and then it's like this, I don't know, almost like the scent of lemons on your tongue, like when you're eating Turkish delight and you can kind of smell, taste roses. It's kind of like that. It's just like this. It doesn't taste lemony, but then there's a lemony lingering. Fascinating. It's been so long I can't remember what lemon beer in Spain actually tasted like. I'm like, does this taste the same? No. I think this is entirely different from the lemon beer I had in Spain, but it is still really nice. Like, I think the lemonness in the aftertaste is unique. I haven't had that before. It's so good. There's not really much point in reviewing a product that you can't buy, but the lemonness is so real, it kind of reminds me of like picking lemons from the garden. It's probably like bacteria from the lemon skins or something. Anyway, before I get any more liquid, because I don't know what the alcohol content on this is. It can't be that high, surely. Right, so we're going to put this down. Right, so on to the business of the day. Book reviews or summaries or whatever. I don't know, what did I say I was going to do? I'm going to talk about stuff. Starting with Ransack. This is a collection of poetry by a New Zealand non-binary person, and it is about their experience of being non-binary. It touches on earlier experiences in life and has their dead name and a little bit of their kind of relationship with it. It does have a little bit of self-harm in it, so if that's something that you find triggering, definitely be aware of that. But it's also not super graphic, like it's there, but it's not super disturbingly there. So kind of medium warning. I did think this was a interesting insight type of book. It covers a lot of different aspects of the experience, and it talks about sort of the conflict, I guess, between the biological sex and gender identity. Next up is the Decameron project. This is all about the pandemic, but it was written at the beginning of the pandemic, so kind of pre-Delta. It's an interesting snapshot of time from many different parts of the world and has a lot of different voices and a lot of different types of stories, even though they all have the pandemic in common in some way. I think this is a book which people will in the future read as part of how they process their experiences of this point of history. I personally read this in an in-between time when New Zealand had had a couple of shutdowns but had managed to get to 0 cases in the country, and we were able to live lives as normal. But that didn't last. Delta arrived. But I did read this in what felt like a post-pandemic experience just because of that window between shutdowns when I read it, and it was a good way of kind of reminding myself of the fear that we all went through when this pandemic first started, and there was all the panic buying, and you know, the news was full of footage of mass graves and doctors wearing garbage bags because they'd run out of PPE and all of those horror moments. That's when these stories were written, and I think reading this when your own life is kind of peaceful and normal is a way of remembering what you've been through and starting to process it a little bit. And because it's from so many different people, it's also a way of kind of thinking about other people's experiences, and perhaps that can help you process your own. Next, a book everyone's been talking about, The Vanishing Half. You know what this is. Twin sisters who are white passing, run away from home, eventually go their separate ways, and one of them crosses the line, that's not the right word, crosses over, I think they say. She starts living the life as a white woman, and in time, one sister's very dark-skinned daughter meets her lily white cousin, who has no idea she exists. It has a little bit of queer representation, and it is a very accessible read whilst showing a very real and, for me, very foreign experience. Next, a hit of fantasy with Graceling. This is the beginning of a series which I can't wait to devour. In this world, people are born with a grace. Well, some people are born with a grace. A person with a grace has mismatched eyes, so you can tell if they have one, but that doesn't mean they even know what it is. So a person with a grace has to try and figure out what they are graced with. Maybe they are just graced with like awesome swimming skills, or making good pies, or mind reading, or throwing knives that always hit their target. You have no idea what you're going to get. The main character of this story has a grace, and so as a small child she is sent to go live at court so that when she finds out what her grace is, if the king thinks it's going to be useful to him, she'll stay. And if it's not useful, then she is sent home in shame. She discovers her grace when an inappropriate man that she is afraid of touches her, and she hits him, killing him instantly, and this is done in front of the entire court, and she immediately becomes the king's thug. This book starts when she's an adult and she has been living that life for quite some time, and yes, adventure ensues. It is really, really good. Can't wait for the rest. Next, we have another poetry collection. This is the Savage Colonizer book. This won a major poetry prize earlier in this year, and it was entirely deserved. This talks about a lot of issues around colonisation and racism and domestic violence, I believe is in there. I think I read this some time ago. I want to say there's also chronic illness. I think the content of this is generally going to be more applicable or accessible to people from the Pacific. However, the general issues that are discussed would be relevant to a wider audience. It embraces anger. Now, I know a lot of people really hate anger. They dismiss it as childish and out of control and inappropriate or ugly. Anger is an entirely appropriate and correct response to some things. The fact that it's expressed here makes it additionally confrontational, but I think even though it's potentially a discomforting read, particularly for white people, it should be read because of that. Sometimes you need to occupy your own discomfort in order to become a better person. I very, very much recommend this book. Next we have The Dust of 100 Dogs. This is about a pirate who is cursed to be reincarnated as dogs 100 times before being incarnated as a human again. She has now been reincarnated as a human and she wants to go and find her treasure and resume her pirate life. She has memories from her time as dogs, and so she has this very in-depth kind of encyclopedic knowledge of history. I think that's one thing which I kind of felt was a little bit of a downfall, was that her learning or experiences as dogs is only ever expressed as, oh, people think I'm a genius because I know all of this about history. But she doesn't have any particular insight or skills relevant to her experience as dogs specifically. If she had been any other animal or perhaps humans, it would have had the same kind of outcome in terms of her knowledge and skill set, which I thought was a bit of a missed opportunity. Aside from that though, I thought it was really, really well done. I like the surprises that keep coming towards the end. Yeah, good read. And my last 5-star read for the year was The Chalkman. Now, I don't read a lot of thriller/mystery type books, but I really enjoyed this one. I personally don't like to be particularly sure of who the baddie is right up pretty much until the end. Like, I want to be surprised. I'm aware that a lot of people want to figure it out, but personally that's not my thing. So I was really happy with this book because I didn't find out who the killer was until we found out who the killer was. It was a big mystery for me, so I really enjoyed that. There is an additional question that is brought up throughout the story. That one I 100% knew what had happened from the get-go, but that wasn't like the what happened to this person, who did it part of the mystery, so that was okay. So that's it for my 5-star reads, but something I have become aware of is that for me the difference between a 4-star read and a 5-star read is kind of arbitrary. Like, I think it kind of comes down to really nitpicky things or just how I feel about it at the time. Who knows? Certainly not I. So I thought, let's have the honourable mentions. The 4-star books for the year, starting with The Book Thief. This is a very peaceful and calm read, particularly given that it's about Nazi Germany. The reason this didn't hit 5 stars is because I actually found it quite put downable. I could have put it down and walked away and not picked it up again for 3 months and not really worried about it. Next up we have another poetry collection. This is I Am a Human Being, and what I appreciated about this book is they've really kept to a concept and carried it through the whole book. So I Am a Human Being is a collection of poems that all start with I am a. So it's I am a tree, I am a dog, I am a black sheep, I am a town crier, I am an ant, I am a unicorn, I am an acupuncturist, I am a masseuse, I am a waiter, I am a jar, I am a Russian doll, I am a version of you from the future, I am a body, I am a robot. I thought the concept was really interesting and each poem really suits the idea of like I am whatever this particular poem is for. So for example, the I am a robot one, it's all written in caps, that kind of thing. So I thought it was really well done for that, but there weren't that many pieces where I was like, oh my god, that's amazing, I must share it or come back to it. You can kind of see like the number of post-its has dropped for this one compared to the other collections, which I gave 5 stars. Next up we have Freshwater. If you have any sensitivity to self-harm or suicide, do not pick up this book at all. I did think it was an interesting read, and I thought it was I keep using the word interesting. I thought it was interesting that the character modifies their body to better suit how they feel, which isn't something I had previously thought too much about for non-binary people. I'd only ever thought about it for trans people. So this definitely got me thinking about things I hadn't previously thought about, and it was interesting to be presented those ideas in the context of kind of a sort of fantasy-like story with elements of a culture which I am not personally familiar with. So I found it entertaining and informative and thought-provoking, but yeah, do not read this if you are sensitive to suicidal self-harm. Holy shit. Next we have the Kamino Club. I have previously discussed this book in a video where it made me piss my pants because a major event from this book is almost identical to a major event in the book I am currently writing. Like, holy crap, even some of the dialogue is the same. It's that similar, so that gave me a bit of a fright. I will link the other video if you want to see that one. Aside from that though, this is basically the Breakfast Club plus some queer kids plus travel in Spain. What's not to love? My last honourable mention of the year is Little Eyes. This is weird. So weird. In this world, people can buy a little robot and you turn it on, and then somewhere out in the world a complete stranger can access it and they can remotely control it, they can hear and see what's going on, and that's kind of it. There's no way for them to directly communicate with you, and you don't get to control who has access to your little robot. Similarly, they can't control which one they access. To get access, they have to buy a code, and once it's activated, it connects with any currently kind of unassigned robot somewhere in the world, and that's the only one you can ever connect to. And it starts off showing you multiple different stories. Some of them drop off before the book finishes, some of them appear halfway through, some run the entire length of the book. So we get to see lots of different experiences that people have either as an operator or as a keeper of one of these little robots. In some cases this might be a little old lady watching a younger woman and feeling emotionally connected to the person that she's watching. It could be somebody who's not interested in seeing people via their little robot so much as seeing the world, and is constantly trying to get their robot outside so they can go and explore further. It might be a person who has one of these robots and is cautious and distrusting of it for various reasons. It is a bizarre and entertaining read, but, and this is why I didn't get a 5-star, and this has to be spoilery, the end is one of those things where it's like artistically it might be excellent, but as a just general read it's a bit disappointing. Every single story ends badly. Every single one. Even the ones which right up to the very final chapter you're like, yes, this is going to end beautifully, end poorly. And for just a read, I don't want to academically analyse it kind of experience, that was a bit of a disappointment. And with that, we are done. So again, I wish you happy holidays. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.